Jumanji by Chris Van Allsburg. Jumanji by Chris Van Allsburg. Jumanji. Now remember, Mother said, your father and I are bringing home some guests after the opera, so please keep the house neat. Quite so, added Father, tucking a scarf inside his coat. Mother peered into the hall mirror and carefully pinned her hair and hat in place, and knelt down and kissed both children goodbye. At the front door, Judy and Peter giggled with delight. They took all the toys out of their toy chest and made a terrible mess, but their laughter was soon turned to silence. Slowly turned to silence till Peter slouched in his chair. You know what, he said, I'm really bored. Me too, sighed Judy. Why don't we go outside and play? Peter agreed, and they set off across the street to the park. It was cold for November, and the children could see their breath like a steam. They rolled in the leaves. When Judy tried to stuff some leaves down Peter's sweater, he jumped up and ran behind a tree. When his sister caught up with him, he was kneeling at the foot of a tree, looking at long, thin box. What is that? Judy said. It's a game, Peter said, handing her the box. Jumanji, Judy read on the box. A jungle adventure game. Look, said Peter, pointing to the note taped to the bottom of the box, and a childlike handwriting with the words, free game, fun for some, but not for all. P.S. Read instructions carefully. Want to take it home? Judy asked. Not really, said Peter. I'm sure somebody left it here because it's so boring. Oh, come on, protested Judy. Let's give it a try. I'll race you home. And she ran off with Peter on her heels. At home, the children spread the game out on the card table. It looked very much like the games they already had. There was a board to unfold and revealing a path of colored squares. The squares had messages written on them, and the path started in the deepest part of the jungles and ended in Jumanji, a city of golden buildings and towers. Peter began to shake the dice and play with the other pieces that were in the box. Put those down and listen, Judy said. I'm going to read the instructions. Jumanji, a young children's jungle adventure game, especially designed for the bored and restless. Player A selects the dice and places it in the deepest part of the jungle. Player B rolls the dice and moves along the path through the dangers of the jungle. C, first player to reach Jumanji and yells the city's name is the winner. Is that all? Peter said, sounding disappointed. No. There's one more thing. And in capital letters, D. Very important. Once the game with Jumanji is started, it will not be over until player 1 reaches the Golden City. Oh, big deal, Peter said with a bored-ass yawn. Here, said Judy, handing her brother the dice. You go first. Peter casually dropped the dice from his hand. 7, Judy said. Peter moved his places to the 7th square. Lion attacks. Move back 2 places, said Judy. Oh gosh, how exciting, Peter said in an unexcited voice, and as he reached for the piece, he looked up at his sister. She had a look of absolute horror on her face. Peter, she whispered, turn around very, very slowly. The boy turned around in his chair and he couldn't believe his eyes. Laying on the piano was a lion staring directly at Peter, licking its lips. The lion roared so loud it knocked Peter right out of his chair. The big cat jumped on the floor, and Peter was up on his feet and running through the house with the lion's whisker linked behind him. He ran up the stairs and dove underneath the bed. The lion tried to squeeze underneath the bed, but he got his head stuck. Peter scrambled out and ran to the bedroom, and slamming the door behind him, he stood in the hall with Judy, gasping for breath. "I don't think," Peter said, gasping for air, "that I want to play this game anymore." "We have to," said Judy, as she helped Peter back up downstairs. I'm sure that's what the instructions mean. The line will not go away until one of us has won the game. Peter stood at the card table. "Can't we just call the zoo and have him taken away?" From upstairs came the loud roars and the growlings and the claws of the bedroom door. "Or maybe we just wait a little until Father gets home?" "No one from the zoo would come because they wouldn't believe us," Judy said. "And you know how upset Mother would be if she found a lion in the room. We started this game, now we have to finish it." Peter looked down at the game board. What if Judy rolled a 7? Then there'd be 2 lions. For an instant, Peter thought he was going to cry, and then he firmly sat in the chair and said, "Let's play." Judy picked up the dice and rolled an 8 and moved her piece. "Monkey steal food, miss 1 turn," she read. From the kitchen came the sounds of banging pots and filling jars, and the children ran to see a dozen monkeys tearing the room apart. "Oh boy," said Peter. "This is really going to upset Mother even more than the lion. Quick, back to the game." Peter took his turns. Thank heavens he landed on a blank space. He rolled again. "Monsoon season begins. Lose 1 turn." A small raindrop fell into the living room. Then a roll of thunder shook the walls and scared the monkeys out of the kitchens. And the rain began to fall buckets as Judy took the dice. Guide gets lost, lose 1 turn. The rain suddenly stopped, and the children looked to see a man hunched over a map. "Oh dear, I say, spot of bad luck now," he mumbled. "Perhaps 1 left there, then 1 right turn here." "Oh yes, absolutely, I think the right turn, or maybe..." "Excuse me," Judy said, but the guide just ignored her. "Around here, no, there, around, no, over there, yes, no, but then, And Judy shrugged her shoulders and handed the dice to Peter. Yeah, it actually says that. See? "4, 5, 6, he said. Beaten by a teensy fly. Contract sleeping virus. Lose 1 turn." Judy heard the faint buzzing of the smallest insect land on Peter's nose. Peter lifted his hand to brush it away, but then stopped and let a tremendous yawn and fell fast asleep with his head on the table. Peter, wake up!" cried Judy. But it was no use. She grabbed the dice and shook to a blank. She rolled again and was amazed. "Rhinoceros stampede, go back 2 spaces." As fast as he had fallen asleep, Peter awoke. Together, they listened for the rumble in the hallway. It grew louder and louder, and suddenly a herd of rhinos charged to the living room, into the dining room, crashing into the furniture that was in their path, and Peter and Judy covered their ears at the splitting wood sounds and the breaking china in the house. Peter gave the dice a quick crumble. "Python sneaks into camp. Go back 1 space." Judy shrieked and jumped up on her chair. "Over the fireplace," said Peter. Judy sat down again, nervously eyeing the 8-foot snake that was wrapping itself around the mantel clock, and the guide looked up from his nap and took one look at the snake and moved to the far corner of the room, rejoining the monkeys on the couch. Judy took a turn and landed on a blank space. Her brother took a dice and rolled again. Oh no, he moaned. Volcano erupts. Go back 3 spaces. The room became very warm and began to shake a little bit. Molten lava pulled from the fireplace and hit the water on the floor, and the room turned to steam, and Judy rolled the dice and moved again. Discovered shortcut, roll again. Oh dear, she said. Judy saw the snake unwrapping itself around the clock. If you roll a 12, you can get out of the jungle, Peter said. Please, please, Judy begged as she shook the dice, and the snake was wiggling its way across the floor. She dropped the dice from her hand. 1, 6, and then another. Judy jumped up and grabbed the piece and slammed it on the board. Jumanji! She yelled as loud as she could. The steam in the room became thicker and thicker, and Judy couldn't see Peter from across the table. Then, as if the doors and the windows were open, a cool breeze blew the steam out of the room. Everything just as it was before. No monkeys, no guide, no water, no broken furniture, no snake, no lions roaring upstairs, no rhinos. And without saying a word to each other, Judy and Peter threw the game into its box. They bolted out the door, ran across the street to the park, and dropped the game underneath the tree. Back home, they quickly put all their toys away, and the both children were too excited to sit quietly. So Peter took out a puzzle, and they had just put the first few pieces together with the excitement when they turned to relief and exhaustion. With the puzzle half done, Peter and Judy fell sound asleep on the sofa. Wake up, dears, Mother said. Judy opened her eyes, and Father and Mother had returned, and their guests were arriving. Judy gave Peter a nudge to wake him, and yawning and stretching, they got to their feet. Mother introduces them to the guests, and then asked, "Did you have an exciting afternoon?" "Oh, yes," said Peter. "We had a flood, a stampede, a volcano. I got sleeping sickness," and Peter was interrupted by the adults' laughter. "Well," Mother said, "I think you both got sleeping sickness. That's why why don't you go upstairs and put your pajamas on, and then you can finish your puzzle and have some dinner." When Peter and Judy came back downstairs, they found out that Father had moved the puzzle to the den. While the children were working on it, one of the guests, Mrs. Budswig, brought them a tray of food. "Such a hard puzzle," she said to the children. Daniel and Walter were starting puzzles but never finished them. Daniel and Walter were Mrs. Budwig's son, and they never read the instructions either. "Oh well," said Mrs. Budwig, rejoining the gifts. "I guess they'll learn." Both the children answered, "I hope so." But they weren't looking at Mrs. Budwig. They were looking out the window at the 2 boys running down the street through the park. One was Danny and one was Walter Budwig, and he had a long box underneath his arm. The end.